Yes! I'm gonna tell you right now, we're right in the middle of America. This is America. We got Corvettes and Mustangs, and we're right in the middle of America. Let's get started.
Are you done with your rant?
Actually, I'm not on a rant, and I'm not really too much into the old American cars that much. I actually like stuff like Bentleys and Ferraris and Porsches, and these are cool cars. They are actually really cool, but I'm not into the whole America thing. Today we're going to talk about this 1968 Ford Mustang. And although it looks the part, there's a lot of things that have been changed on it, upgrades. It's called a Resto-mod. We're going to take a look around it and show you guys what we've done to this car to fix a few things. And the bill is under $500. It's really cheap. We fixed 3 items on this car for under $500. I could have taken this guy for $1,000, but I didn't. So let's go ahead and pop the hood on this thing. Go ahead and pull the America pins out. And then we see what I believe to be a 289 or a 302, or I'm not sure what it is. This engine's obviously been out and been customized or modified. What was the final cubic inches? I have no clue. What's the horsepower on this thing? I have no clue. The torque, foot-pounds of torque, I have no clue. It's all custom, guys. It needs to go to a dyno to find that information out. And we don't do dyno stuff here. But it does look really good. It has Cobra valve covers. It has a flamethrower ignition coil. Nice yellow XL. Spark plug wires. It's got air conditioning that works. We got it working again. Power steering. It runs really good. It sounds really good too. We'll start it up for you guys before the video is over. But it came in with the AC not working. It was just a little low, just enough to not turn on the safety switch, or the pressure switch I should say. We recharged it and it's running fine. The AC works great. We didn't really find any leaks, so really not sure what went on there. It could have been one of the service valves, but we tested those and they were fine too, so we'll just have to see what happens with that.
So, Car Wizard,
Mm-hmm.
did they change or add anything to this?
One thing they did add is this overflow reservoir for the antifreeze. This did not come from 1968. There's a little bit of antifreeze in there. It's got an Edelbrock 4-barrel. It looks to be an Edelbrock intake. It is. It's a Performer RPM intake. So it's pretty customized. I think they did it tastefully though. It runs really good. Let's go ahead and take a look around this really sweet car. It has a very beautiful Mustang front end. I love the look of the Mustangs on these years 66, 7, 8. They look really, really cool. Got the little fog or driving lights in there. Looks very nice. It has some, I don't know what you call those wheels. It's got a Mustang emblem as a center cap. Krager style wheels or something. I'm not sure what you would even call those, but they're in pretty good shape. It's got BF Goodrich radio TAs. They look fairly new. The owner mentioned that it had recently been repainted. You can see a nice metallic sparkle in the paint. That didn't come from 1968. Metal flake almost. And it has some sort of pinstriping or decal that was put on and then it was clear coated over that. So you can't really feel it with your nail, which is really the way to do that because it protects it and keeps it from coming off in the future. Got very dark tinted windows. Everything looks pretty stock back here. Iconic Mustang. Looks really nice. As you can see, it's really clean. The guy that has this just bought it. So as far as the history or all those types of things, there's really not much of a history there yet because the guy hasn't had it very long. But I think he did pretty good. It runs and drives very well. And it looks really nice. It was done well. You can trust me, I've seen some pretty bad Resto-mods in the shop that are very poor. This is not one of them. This one was done very well. So the miles on there says 40,000. I'm not sure if that's 140 or 240 or just 40. It looks to be an aftermarket steering column. It does have aftermarket AC in it, a Kenwood stereo. The dash is in pretty good shape. Here's some aftermarket speakers. These seats are definitely not 1968 seats. They're either custom made or they were purchased as aftermarket. They're actually very comfortable. I like them when I sat in them and drove it, but it's not original. It's got a headliner that's like suede or Alcantara stripped down the middle, and the rest is vinyl. And the dome light looks like 1968. It looks the part. The back seats have been redone. And they look good. They did a very good job. And some aftermarket 6x9s on the parcel shelf. And a center console right here with cup holders. That is not original to the car. But that's not the goal of this car, was not originality. That's why it's called a Resto-mod. And you can see the shifter there. It looks like a revolver. It looks like the barrel on a revolver was a 6-shooter. It shifts nice. It shifts in and out of the gears like it's supposed to. It feels really nice. The outside of the door looks like a typical Mustang, but the inside's very different and also has this strange little door handle here. It flips up and then pulls up. So it flip and pull. That way it's not digging into your hip while you're driving. It's pretty neat. It's got a suede finish with vinyl. It looks really good. Go ahead and start it, Mrs. Wizard. It started right up. We'll go back here and listen to the exhaust. So one of the things we fixed is the customer said that the condensate drain for the air conditioning was dripping onto the floor, and he tried to fix it. And when I inspected it, I could see that the fitting that comes out of the back was broke clean off. I was able to insert a barbed fitting with some adhesive, actually epoxy, in place of the fitting, and we put the hose back on, and it works great now. That's probably $100 or so. We were at time and parts to fix it. I guess I could have charged him for a whole new unit or tried to work the bill up really high, but it's not necessary. So a simple fix, a cheap fix, back in business. Mrs. Wizard, will you push the clutch down with your hand? It's fairly easy, right?
Yeah, I guess. Don't normally push the clutch with my arm.
You can go ahead and let it go. Okay, so the clutch when it came in was very stiff, very hard to press, and it squeaked really loud whenever you try to push the pedal. And that's no longer the case. It's easy to push. Let me show you guys what we fixed on that. To show you what we had to do to fix the tight clutch, I had to lift it up. So while we're here, we'll go ahead and start looking under the car, and then we'll get to what I had to do to fix it. Here we have what looks like an original radiator, 1968 old brass or copper radiator. I don't see anything leaking though, which is good. There's our front sump oil pan, typical Ford. Again, a 289 or 302, something like that. Take a look at these brakes. These are not 1968, that's for sure. They look good. The pads look really good. Nothing really all that loose. It looks like one of the boots is come loose. We just need to pop that back on. That'll be a simple fix. Sway bar is good. Brakes are good there. Nothing loose. Again, the boot also popped off here. It just needs to be popped back on. Sway bar is good. We'll move our way back to here. Looks like there's very slight seepage from the oil pan, but nothing that's really too bad. Right here is a little black box. That's where the clutch fork is, and ahead of that you can see the clutch cable. Looks like a black cable, and it goes all the way up to the clutch pedal. All we had to do was remove that from the car, and I could see that it was corroded and it was real stiff. It barely wanted to move. We were able to clean it out with brake cleaner and compressed air and inject lube into the cable and get it refreshed. And now it moves very easy. No more noise, and it's very easy to press the clutch pedal. Again, it wasn't an expensive fix, so I was able to take care of that without breaking the bank. Here's two headers, full-length headers coming down to the exhaust. Looks like they contact this cross member here, but I guess it works. There's our transmission. I think it's a T5, it looks like. Looks good, nothing dripping, pouring out of it. U-joint's good. Here's our Flowmaster exhaust. Sounds really good. Check this U-joint. Looks good. There's a Ford 9-inch rear end. You can tell this is a third member carrier here, which are very, very strong differentials. It looks like a 9-inch anyway. It may not be, but it looks like one to me. There's our drum brakes. It's got some KYB shocks on it. It's been taken very good care of. It was built well. Here's our fuel tank and our exhaust pipes. So other than the clutch cable, I really didn't see anything and also the little boots on the ball joints. That's about it. It really didn't need a whole lot. So let's get this thing back on the ground. Well, thanks for following along on the really sweet Mustang. We're also doing some work on Tyler's Corvette. We're coming along, doing some checks on it and making some pretty good headway on it. I do a lot of work on some of these older cars. I'm not going to restore somebody's older car. If you have one of these that's been sitting in your barn for 6 years and you'd like to get it back on the road, I'm not going to be your guy. I don't do that kind of work here. Typically, when it comes to these cars, the Mustangs, the Camaros, the Corvettes, there's 3 types of buyers when it comes to these cars. Number one is numbers matching. Every bolt, every nut, everything will be original to the year. By the book, everything will be perfect. That's number one. Number two is Resto-mod, which is what this is. It looks very close to stock. You really have to look to see some of the differences, but there's been some upgrades. There's air conditioning, a different transmission, and some suspension upgrades, brakes upgrades to modernize the car without making it look drastically different. And the third person is full-on modification. LS swap, change out the transmission, customize this, customize that, cut the metal, shape it how you want, redo the interior all in pink or something really weird. Those are the 3 different types of buyers on these cars. There's nothing wrong with either one of those 3. This is what we have here. When I get one of these cars in the shop, I typically have to discover which kind of buyer we're dealing with, because that will decide what kind of actions we take to fix the car, or even the costs involved. If somebody wants numbers matching perfection, it's going to take some research. We're going to have to dig pretty deep to find the exact numbers matching parts and pieces. On a car like this, that wouldn't be so much a concern, just to bring it back to operating condition, however it was done originally. Like on the Jeep in the back, when it goes back together, when we get the engine back from the rebuilder, we'll be adding, it looks like a carburetor, but it's actually fuel injected. It'll be converted over to fuel injection, which will make it start easier, run easier. The customer doesn't want to dink around with carburetors. He wants set it and go performance, and that's what he'll get out of that. So typically also I don't do conversions like that, but just for very few customers, Hoovy and this guy and a few other people. And it really comes down to cost, because there's so many times that I've had cars in the shop to do things like this, and when they see how much it ends up really costing, they're unhappy. They're not unhappy with my work. They're not unhappy with the results. They're unhappy that they had to dig deep into their personal savings to make this happen, and they're like, I totally didn't think that this $3,000 job was going to be $9,000 to get it done. This guy on the Jeep, Hoovy, I totally understand that. 6 grand, 9 grand, 10 grand, whatever. I want the results, and here's the money. So that's the type of customer I will do that for. But if someone's trying to price shop, I'm not going to do that kind of work for that type of person. In this situation, we got very lucky. Under $500, we fixed 3 items, and he'll be back on the road. So it doesn't always have to be expensive. Not every car that comes in the shop is $2 grand, $5 grand, 10 grand, 3 grand. It's not that way. This one's going to leave for like 460 bucks or something. And he got 3 items solved, and he's back on the road. So it doesn't always have to be bad, guys. And just like we just did now, we did a check over and checked a few things over. There's really nothing seriously wrong with this car. It's ready to hit the road and enjoy the summer. So if you're curious what kind of tools we use to work on these cars, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. All my tools that I use in the shop are listed for sale there. We get a small cut and I appreciate it. And make sure you hit the subscribe button. Not only is there projects in the waiting, there's more to come. Thanks for watching. Mrs. Wizard, why don't you push on the clutch pedal with your hand?
Would you like me to grow another arm?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if I can do this. Hold the camera and push the... Okay. Okay.
All the way to the floor.
Do you know how hard that is to do?